The World Cup in Qatar 2022 is just a matter of days away, and you know that we had to make a predictor game for it. So far this Premier League season, we've been doing the Premier League Predictor, which a lot of you guys have been getting involved in, and I had loads of requests to do a World Cup version, so here it is. The World Cup Predictor is going to be our way of competing against each other as a community to predict the World Cup results. The rules are on the screen right now, so let's go through them one by one so you guys understand it. Number one, put your predictions in the comments section down below. So basically, as I'm going through the video, as I'm going through my predictions, you need to put your comments down below with what you predict each result to be. Put them all in one post. Someone's likely already done it. You can copy and paste it and change the scores. Rule number 2 is that your predictions must be submitted before the first game of that set kicks off. For example, this week's set is the first game of the group stage, for example. So every single game won from the group stage will be in this video. You need to put your prediction in before that first game kicks off on Sunday. Rule number 3 is you'll receive 1 point for a correct result and 5 points for a correct scoreline. So for example, if you predict 2-0 to England in the first game and the scoreline is actually 3-0, you'll still get 1 point because you got the correct result, England winning. If the game actually ends up being 2-0, you also get the correct scoreline, meaning you'll get 5 points for that result. And rule number 4, you must watch the video all the way through and like the video. I 100% have a way of tracking this. And it turns out that your predictions won't count unless you do that. So make sure you do it now. And subscribe to the channel too. Please show support in this series. Now, in Premier League Predictor, we're able to show the scores of all you guys between the game weeks. It's going to be different with this World Cup Predictor because the games come thick and fast. I'm literally not going to have time to make a video and get it out before the next set of games start. So I'll actually have to show you guys probably a little bit later on in the series how we're all doing. But I will be tracking each and every single one of your scores each week, adding them all up, and we will have a league table towards the end of the series. So we'll see who in our community is the best at predicting the World Cup scores. And it doesn't matter if you're discovering this now and the deadline's already passed. Join into the second video because you never know. You might get a run of plenty of scores correct, get loads of points and jump up the table. So you can join at any point. You don't have to join right from the beginning. If there's any questions about the series, put them in the comments down below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. So with all the housekeeping out of the way, it's time to get into our predictions. The way I'm going to do it, I'm going to have 2 screens here. I'm going to have part 1 and part 2. The first part's got group A, B, C and D in, and then part 2 has got the rest of the groups in. We're going to do group games 1 today, so the first fixture for each team competing in the World Cup will be in this video, and that's what you guys will be predicting alongside me. Now, I'll admit, some of these fixtures, I've just put a scoreline, because if you feel like you know the ins and outs of the Saudi Arabia football team, then you're lying to yourself, and if you're looking for content like that, then go watch James Olcott or something. So some of these scores are just rough predictions, and I'll talk about the fixtures that I feel like I have some knowledge of, and then get told in the comments I don't have that knowledge. So Group A is our first group to look at. We've got Qatar versus Ecuador and Senegal versus Netherlands. Now, Qatar, going back like 7 years ago, I believe it was now, they actually pumped a load of money into their football infrastructure to build a team solely for this World Cup. They had plans to bid for the World Cup. They kind of knew they were going to get it because of the money that they've got. And they were buying young players from different countries, bringing them over to Qatar to live there, just so that they had lived there long enough to represent the Qatar national team. It worked because they did win the Asia Cup, so they've actually gained from this. However, it's a bit weird. It is a little bit strange, and it's another thing that kind of draws attention to this World Cup and how wrong it is on so many levels. We won't go into that today. We've got other things that we want to be focusing on, like the actual football side of things. So Ecuador against Qatar. I think Qatar are going to choke. I don't think they're ready for a big stage like this. You can't just throw a team together with some money and hope for the best. I know it happens in club football, but that's very, very, very different. In the international stage, there's other teams in this tournament that are just built different. I've gone for 1-0 to Ecuador. I've also gone for 3-1 to Netherlands up against Senegal. I just think, even though Senegal are a very decent side, I think the Netherlands have got what it takes. I think Gakpo's going to come in and have an absolutely insane tournament. He's my one to watch for this tournament. I think he's going to come out the other end of it, and where I'm pretty sure Man United want to buy him, I think his price will have tripled by the time this tournament ends, because I think that he's going to have that good a tournament. So Netherlands are definitely the ones to watch in Group A. Group B sees England take on Iran and the USA take on Wales. Now, I think this group is actually going to be a lot harder to get out of than people realise. England are arguably the favourites and will hopefully walk the group for us English fans. But I think, especially with the USA and Wales in there, there's two very difficult tests. Up against Iran first, however, I think that England will walk this fixture. I've gone for 3-0 to England against Iran. I've gone for 2-2 between USA and Wales. Starting with the England fixture, I think that if Gareth Southgate goes in there, he's probably going to go with 3 at the back with 2 wing backs. He's going to set up the way he expects to set up for the whole tournament. And in all 3 of these group games, I would like to think we'll hold possession for 99% of the time, which is where those 2 wing backs will basically become wingers and will be pushing well up the pitch. With Iran, I think, yes, they're going to be able to, sit back and try and defend against this England team, but by the end of it, they're going to have to give up eventually. Like, the pressure's going to be too much. And the players that England can bring off the bench this World Cup is insane. People like Maddison won't start. Maybe potentially even Grealish won't start for England. He'll be on the bench. And if it's not him, it's going to be Raheem Sterling. It's incredible the level of player that we have that can come off the bench and make an impact in games. So when Iran starts to tire, those players will come in and make a massive difference. USA versus Wales, I think, are much more evenly matched than people expect. I think people expect USA to kind of be better than Wales in this tournament, but I think Wales have got a decent squad. Gareth Bale is his last real chance now, isn't it, to do something on the international stage for his Welsh team, like the likes of Ryan Giggs and Robbie Savage and people have done in the past. So I think that that's going to be a pretty close fixture. I think it'll be quite open because both teams will want to impress on the first fixture of the group stage. But coming out with a 2-2 draw is probably fair for those guys, a share of the points there. In Group C, we have Argentina versus Saudi Arabia and Mexico versus Poland. Now, I have gone for a slight upset here. I haven't gone for an upset in the Saudi Arabia-Argentina fixture, by the way, because that one's a pretty straightforward win. I've gone for 2-0 there to Argentina, but I've gone for a bit of an upset with the Mexico versus Poland fixture. I've gone for Mexico to win 2-1. So this group stage, I think this group is near enough the group of death. Maybe not. There's probably a harder group later on, thinking about it actually. But this group is going to be very hard to get out of. Argentina, I do think, will top the group. I don't think they'll have too many issues. They might struggle a bit more against Mexico and Poland, but I think they'll get outright wins against Saudi Arabia and at least one of those 2 other opponents. So I think they'll be absolutely fine to get out of the group. But Mexico and Poland, I think those 2 are going to be battling it out. And one of them is going to feel pretty aggrieved to have missed out. I personally think that Mexico are going to be the team that go through. Poland will be the ones that miss out, and Lewandowski is going to go home crying. But we will have to wait and see. This is the hardest group to predict, in my opinion, so far in these predictions anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how it ends up. Group D, you've got Denmark versus Tunisia and France versus Australia. In this group, we've got the most convincing win of the lot so far. I have gone for a Denmark win against Tunisia 1-0, but I've gone for 4-0 France against Australia. Australia just don't really have a strong squad at all at the moment. I don't feel like they've got any standout players for this World Cup. They haven't got like a Harry Kewell or a Mark Viduka or anyone that you feel like you can put the team on their back. It's more just... It's just a squad of Australian players, and that's about it, really. I don't think they've got enough to make a difference in this World Cup, and they will probably finish bottom of that group. I see France and Denmark qualifying from this group. I don't see Tunisia causing anyone a real problem either. So it's probably the most straightforward group out of the lot, if I'm honest with you, apart from maybe Group A for the Netherlands. So I think France, with the 4-0 win, is going to be massively convincing. They've got a lot of talent, and by a lot of talent, I mean a lot of talent. They've even left people like Kante and Pogba out of the squad due to injury / not quite fit yet / not good enough. So yeah, they're absolutely stacked with a lot of young players as well that will want to make an impact. I wouldn't be surprised if following this World Cup, a lot of teams go in for some of these French youngsters. and the prices are going to be pretty crazy. On to Group E. This one is arguably a harder group, although you would say that probably Germany and Spain are going to be the ones that come out of it. So you have got yourselves Germany versus Japan and Spain versus Costa Rica. Germany, for me, will be able to see off Japan, but I always like Japan. I love watching Japan. I'm going to definitely try and sit down and watch this fixture because I think it'll be an interesting one. Germany, I think will win 2-1. I put Spain to win 3-2 against Costa Rica. I don't have much else to say, really. I think that Costa Rica, again, are an underdog within this group. I think if either team are going to cause Germany and Spain a problem in this group, it will be Costa Rica. But the scorelines I've gone for here are based on me thinking Spain's defence isn't great and that it will likely flood in some goals, and Japan are just very robust and will be hard to break down for Germany, so I think that's where they'll have trouble there. Group F is another pretty straightforward group, if I'm honest with you. You've got Morocco against Croatia and Belgium versus Canada. I think it's very hard to get at least the result wrong here. Obviously, scoreline. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. But sometimes in these predictor games, there is a result that you can basically guarantee. And in this one, it is Belgium versus Canada. Everyone should get 1 point from this game, in my opinion. Morocco versus Croatia, I've gone for 2-0 to Croatia. I think that's another straightforward fixture. And Belgium to win 3-0 against Canada. Canada, again, don't really have any players apart from Alphonso Davies that I think are standout world-class players. Croatia have got a decent squad and some, Luka Modric, for example. And you've got to remember, Croatia have gone very far in tournaments before. So they're a team that's worth keeping an eye on. But I think Belgium are probably the outside favourites, if that makes sense, for this tournament. They're not necessarily going to 100% be in the final of the tournament, but they're a team that if we come to the end of the tournament and they are in the final, we'll go, yeah, could have seen that coming, if I'm honest. So I think that, Belgium and Croatia will walk Group F, and then we'll have to see what happens after that. We're on to the final day of this World Cup Group Games number 1 round, and we've got Switzerland versus Cameroon and Brazil versus Serbia from Group G. This one, I have gone for a massive upset. Absolutely massive upset here. So I've gone Switzerland to beat Cameroon 2-1. I think that could go either way, if I'm honest with you. Both sides are decent. Both sides have got decent players. I think that Switzerland have arguably got the better players overall. Although I think Granit Xhaka's injured and might not be able to play, so that might make a bit of a difference there. I've gone for 2-1 Switzerland, but I've gone for 1-1 between Brazil and Serbia. I think even though Brazil are one of the favourites to win this tournament, Serbia are just one of those teams that will trip people up. I just have a feeling that they're going to cause Brazil an issue. I don't know what it is, but deep down, Serbia are going to cause a problem for Brazil in this group stage. Whether it be Serbia win the group randomly, or whether it be they just get a couple of points off Brazil in this game. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I just feel deep down something's going to happen. This Brazil team have a lot of pressure on them this World Cup. They've taken loads of strikers. They've not taken Bobby Firmino, who is the highest performing Brazil striker in the Premier League so far this season. So that was a bit confusing if you ask me. But they do have an insane strike force. Gabriel Jesus, Richarlison, Neymar, the list goes on. They have players. Antony as well. They've got so many good players, but I just think they've also got quite a few egos in there. Neymar's a massive ego. It's the one thing I don't like about him. I think that it's going to be a problem. Richarlison is a massive ego. Antony is clearly a massive ego, and he's doing flipping pirouettes on the pitch for no reason. Gabriel Jesus is probably the only one there that's not a massive ego in the front line for Brazil this World Cup. So I just think Serbia are going to do it. Don't ask me why. I have no reasoning behind it, but I just have a very, very strong feeling. And our final group is Group H, where we see Uruguay against South Korea and Portugal versus Ghana. So, how do I see this one going? Well, I think it will be interesting, this group, because you've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who's thrown his toys out the pram just before the World Cup and has clearly caused some issues within the Portuguese national team. You got the likes of Bruno Fernandes giving him the cold shoulder. João Cancelo giving him the cold shoulder in training as well. So I think that Ronaldo's made this all about him. He's made this World Cup all about him now, and I think that the Portugal team will suffer as a result. I don't see it being a positive, in my opinion. If there had been other stuff going on within the Portugal camp that we were all aware of, and suddenly Ronaldo came in and took it all, and took all the limelight from them, and they could then focus on their football, I'd get it. But they looked good. They've got a lot of informed players going into this World Cup, and Ronaldo has just come in and thrown a massive spanner in the works, in my opinion. However, saying that, I've gone for 3-1 to Uruguay against Korea, and I've gone for 1-0 to Portugal against Ghana. I think they still will get the result in this fixture, but I just feel like overall across the whole tournament, Portugal will be worse off as a result of that Ronaldo interview about Manchester United. So we'll have to wait and see. Uruguay could have a decent squad this year. They have got players that could go on to cause some issues for any team they come up against. The likes of Nunez or Bentancur, for example, who I think is playing really well at the moment. There's a lot of players in there that could cause issues for any national team that get them in the knockout stages, so they're going to have to be careful. I think that this Group H, you will see Uruguay go through, who I think will go through as top of the group, and I think you'll probably see Portugal go through as second place just about. Korea and Ghana just don't really have what it takes. You've got Heung-min Son, who's the only player at Korea really that can cause anyone an issue, and I think that he's obviously struggling with a dislocated eye socket or something mental at the moment, so he's going to be, you know, not quite at full fitness for this World Cup, unfortunately for him. But yeah, I think that the Group H, it probably writes itself, if I'm honest. It's just whether Uruguay or Portugal finish first. As a result of what Cristiano Ronaldo has done to the squad recently, I think it will be Uruguay. So here's a roundup of my Game Week 1 World Cup predictions for the Qatar 2022 World Cup. In Group A, we've got Ecuador to win 1-0 against Qatar, and we've got Netherlands to get a 3-1 win. In Group B, we've got England to win 3-0 against Iran and USA and Wales to draw 2-2. Argentina to win 2-0 in their first game of Group C, with Mexico to win 2-1 against Poland. Group D, we've got Denmark to win 1-0 and France to win 4-0 against Australia. Group E, we've got Germany to win 2-1 against Japan, Spain to win 3-2 against Costa Rica. Group F sees Croatia get a 2-0 win and Belgium get a 3-0 win. Group G is Switzerland to get the points 2-1 in the first game there, and Brazil and Serbia to draw 1-1. And Group H, straightforward for Uruguay to win 3-1 and Portugal to win 1-0. So those were my predictions. If you want to get involved, go into the comments right now and predict your World Cup scorelines for the first game week in these group stage games. I think personally, one of you guys is probably going to get it better than me. This is so hard to predict. It's such a random affair when it comes to the World Cup. So get your predictions in down below. And by the end of the series, we'll be able to find out who has the best football knowledge in the Matt Ayres community. Well, on an international stage anyway. And who knows, the winner will have bragging rights over us for at least another 4 years. If you have enjoyed this video, hit a massive thumbs up on it, and subscribe to the channel as well to make sure you know when videos go out. Remember, you've got to get in your predictions before the deadline of each week. This week's deadline is 4 o'clock on Sunday in the UK. Qatar versus Ecuador kicks off then. We need to make sure we've got our predictions in before that game starts. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.